Yeah, Ohio Political News, the podcast show in living color as always. So it's good to see everybody out there. Get that stuff out of here. Yeah. All right, so we got a really big shoe for everybody tonight. Brian Lorenz is going to be joining us. He is a state representative out of District 60, which isn't that far from Columbus. So he has a relatively close drive to there. But we'll be talking with him about the budget, about the REINS Act, other legislation stuff that he's put together. We'll talk about some property taxes, as always, and we're going to talk about issue 2. We got a lot on our plates here to talk about tonight. Brian is with us. How you doing, Brian? Good to see you.
Doing great. Welcome.
And Jonathan is with us again tonight. Good to see you, Jonathan.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Jonathan.
Now, I want to ask you guys a quick question here. As I want an honest answer here. Maybe you guys saw some of that stuff with Trump. Trump was out there as the Pope. Did you guys see any of that? Let me just see if I can pull it up here real quick for you. But okay, is this in bad taste or not? Now this was, the Democrats are going crazy about it. Trump is not supposed to be saying he's going to be the Pope. They don't like it. I think he looks very. That is very dignified picture of him right there. Very dignified. I know it's, we're just having a little bit of fun with it and stuff like that. But did you guys ever wonder about what it might be like if Trump actually became Pope? I don't know if you ever thought. This is him at the Vatican, man. This would be him. I don't know. This is almost like a dream come true, I think. You got the McDonald's, and you also have Elon there in the corner. And he's got that trash can.
He's one of the Cardinals.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, he's one of the Cardinals. I love that trash can there with the fake news. Look, it's got CNN and stuff in it. And here's performing an exorcism using a MAGA cap. Here he goes.
That's a great video.
I love the music too. Yeah, all right. One other thing here too, Kamala Harris. I don't know if you guys heard about this or not, but Kamala Harris. Now, just think for a minute. Just think for a second. This could be our president right here. Okay, this could be our president right here.
Scary thought.
And Tim Walz could be our
vice president. Huh?
Tim Walz could be our vice.
I don't want any talk of that's like a horror movie.
That's would be an
concept.
Yeah, an absolute frightening concept. With her, that right there. Look at that. That would be the president of the United States right now, and Tampon Tim would be the VP. We'd be in a heck of a lot of trouble. Now, she has said, which is kind of interesting, she said that she's possibly going to be running in 2028 for the presidency. She's got that on her list of things to do. She also has on her list of things to do to run as governor for California. She might do that instead. And then she said she might not do anything. She might say the hell with it. I'm going to get out of politics altogether. I got a couple other things here for X. I was reading this. Senator Rand Paul is saying that he is going to hold Fauci accountable for his role in the pandemic and the COVID cover-up. Okay? So Rand Paul, mighty Rand Paul, is going to hold Fauci accountable for what Fauci did. Do you know what that translates to, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
A strongly worded letter?
Yeah, all right. Strongly worded letter. That's exactly what that amounts to. And one last thing here, too, and I saw this on X, and I just got to bring this up. If you look at how all the phony polling that is going on, this right here, look at some of these numbers here. Even Fox News, they got Trump down 11 points from where he was. CNN's got him dropped down to 14. NPR 10. New York Times 12. CBS 10. On and on. Okay? So, but then you look at Emerson. Emerson is fairly reliable polling. They've got him tied. In other words, he didn't lose anything. His approval and disapproval rating are, about the same, and then we've got Rasmussen, which is also probably the best. Rasmussen is probably the most accurate. They've got them up by 1. So the polling is garbage. You can just throw it out because, on the one hand, you got polling that says Trump's down 14. On the other hand, you got the reliable stuff from Rasmussen saying that he's up 1 point. So I just thought that this is just too crazy. It's just too crazy. We are living we're living in a world of a lot of problems here. And I don't know who's got the audio. That's you, Jonathan. You got all kinds of noise coming out of there, man. All kinds of. It sounds like you're in a rocket ship or something. Okay, so maybe you can fix that.
I don't believe any of those, Joe. Those are just a waste of time, really.
Yeah, that stuff is a waste of time, without a doubt. All right, let's talk for a few minutes. We got like I said, coming up at 7:30 in about 15 minutes or so. We got Brian Lorenz coming in. We're going to talk to him, but let's talk a little bit about what happened with you, Brian. Let's the property taxes and stuff like that. So you went to take a visit to the Attorney General's office. You did that. What day was that? Was that Thursday?
That was Thursday, May 1st. Let's see, John Mara, and there was Elaine Cross, myself, and Vesna Perisic out of Kirtland. We all went down to what we thought was to go to the Attorney General's office, but we got there. We were treated like pariahs. I don't know, something was going on at the at that building on 30 Broad Street.
Okay, let me ask you this a second. Let me just ask you this, because I found out later on, because I know we talked and you said that, man, you were rudely treated and everything. But Thursday they had a big protest going on. I don't know if you were aware of that. With the
supposedly we got there just before the protest was going to start. I don't know if it actually took place or not. Maybe
they had a bunch of thousands. They had thousands of people out there, mostly university-type people, teachers and stuff. Librarians complaining about the budget, not getting enough money. But that's what the whole protest
Well, we went down there, and this was. We've collected over 1,800 signatures from 26 counties, and the petition was to completely eliminate the property tax in the state of Ohio. And this was our first step to give it to the Attorney General. As I understand the process, as the Attorney General is supposed to look at the petition, determine if it's a free and fair constitutional amendment. If he gives it a clean bill of health, then it goes over to the Secretary of State. There is a department there that will write the ballot language. Then the Secretary of State's office will send all of the signatures to the 26 different counties, and they will check the signatures to make sure that they are all registered voters. We believe that we do have the 1,000 because we have taken the time to certainly look in Lake County, and there was well over 500 just from Lake County that we verified that they were registered voters. So.
Right, so you took the signatures. Just so let me back it up here a minute. You took these signatures to Dave Yost's office, the Attorney General, because you've got to have at least 1,000 signatures. 1,000
registered voters. That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And registered voters. It got to be legit and everything. You did like 1,800, and you took it to the Attorney General's office. And what they're going to do is, if there's 1,000 good signatures, then they can approve it. But they also have to look. Don't they have to look at the whole language to it, or what is it?
Yeah, that's what they do. They look at how we want to change the Constitution, and if they say that we're on the right path, they'll write the ballot language that will appear on the November ballot. Then we've got the huge undertaking of collecting 420,000 signatures.
Yeah, that's going to take a little bit of doing. You're right.
44 different counties.
And what you're trying to do here, just because we talk about this all the time, but people listening are like, what the hell are they talking about? This is to change the Ohio Constitution to get rid of property taxes altogether, correct?
That is correct. We, we thought about it long and hard. Do we just do it just for the schools, or? But the more that we discussed it among ourselves and with citizens across the state of Ohio, we said this whole thing has got to go for a variety of reasons. And it's not that we don't want to pay taxes. We will certainly pay taxes for the police and fire and the services that we use. We're just saying that there's no tax that should be tied to our home. Our home home ownership is the foundation of freedom and liberty, and it allows families to get out of poverty by the transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. But people, have been asking us, well, how are you going to fund the schools? Well, there's no problem in raising revenue in the state of Ohio, whether we make it an income tax or a sales tax or some sort of combination, or the state has to step up and they've got to come up with a new taxation system. If the state, sends money to the school districts, and the school districts, want to raise more locally, they have the ability through an income tax that's already on, as part of the law. They can do that. They can get donations from corporations, and they can get donations for the people that say you've got to have the schools. We're saying, well, that's great. We think, if you really want the schools, then just, write the check for the schools, and you'll feel better about it, and the schools will benefit.
Yeah, I like what. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
I'm going to say just don't tie it to my home. And as I tell the administrator in Concord, I said, yeah, I'll pay for roads and bridges and police and fire. Just send me a check, and I'll just treat it like an insurance bill. But just don't tie it to my home.
All right, and one of the things I liked about what Pleshnik was saying, you guys were doing a meeting, Lorain County Liberty Coalition, and he gave a really good fiery speech about, he's a commissioner in Lake County, and he's a big fighting force to get rid of these property taxes, and he sees firsthand, he's talked to a lot of people, just how important that is to get these property taxes out of here. And people are saying, well, some people might say, well, that's kind of ridiculous. How are you going to get rid of property taxes? But on the other hand, talk to the people that have lost their houses or are going to lose their homes, and when you stop and think about it for a minute, the property taxes have gotten so high. Let's say you're paying $6,000 for a property tax, okay? And a lot of people pay a lot more than that. But let's just say it's $6,000. So every 6 months you got to come up with $3,000 every 6 months. And if you're on a fixed income like Social Security or something,
that's $500 a month, Joe.
That's $500 a month that you have to come up with. In addition, now if you are just living off Social Security, let's say you don't have a pension, you don't have anything else, you're just living paycheck to paycheck. You're paying your utility bills,
if you can
you're
make
getting
it.
by, you're getting by, and then every 6 months, boom, another $3,000 you have to pay. And some people just cannot do it. And if they let that slide, then 6 months it's $6,000, and they're breathing down your neck saying, we're going to come and take your house. This is why the other thing Pleshnik said that makes so much sense is that we don't work for the government. The government works for us. And that's what people have forgotten. The government is our servant. We are not the servant of government. So if there has to be a belt tightening, if somebody has to do something without, you have to do without. It's not the citizen that has to do without. It's the government that has to start doing without. See, we have to flip the table.
I agree 100% in that there's no checks and balances in our system. The generation of revenue is not the problem, for the state. They'll come up with some type of tax. The problem is the lack of control on the spending in the schools. Again, the schools are taking 60 to 70%, depending on your taxing district. They're taking 60 to 70%, but the other taxing authorities, be it the county and or many of the other taxing authorities within the county, Adams Board, Metro Parks, and that sort of thing, they're all taking property taxes, and they can't curtail their spending. It's just more and more. They'll never cut back.
No, they never will.
So it's unsustainable.
No, the last thing they're going to do is cut any of their. So they need a cost of living increase, right? At our expense, they need to hire more people and create more projects at our expense because it keeps upping our property taxes. People got to understand, when the government becomes too costly, which is what's happening now, it's too costly, then you have to start eliminate some of this government, the programs. They got to cut staff. They got to get rid of people. They got to get rid of projects. Maybe some of the schools have to shut down. That has to happen.
There may
It's
be
gotta
consolidation of schools.
Yeah, consolidate
But
the
also,
schools.
Joe, the property tax is the most expensive tax to administer. When you think about all 88 counties, they have auditors, they've got treasurers, and they may not be needed. And certainly the staff at the state level. And look how many millions and millions of dollars they pay for property appraisals, and how much they pay in legal fees and fighting the commercial industry and the industrial sector, and also the public utilities. They're always looking for reduction in their property taxes, and then that falls back on the homeowners. So there is a tremendous cost throughout our system, just trying to maintain this property tax system that they have, and it's not sustainable.
No, absolutely not. Not sustainable.
Because the argument, the statement that we make, any tax that causes a citizen to become homeless is immoral, and we're going to see more and more people become homeless. They're going to lose their homes because of these property taxes.
Well, we have to stop that, though. That has to be stopped. It as I've been saying, we've got it all backwards. The government is our servant. When the government is too expensive for the citizens, then the government has to chop. It's parts of it got to get eliminated. It goes. It's not the citizen that has to keep tightening the belt. It's the government.
We're going to have to change the mindset of our state legislators, because there's many of them, and many of the county auditors that are saying if a senior cannot afford their home, they should sell their home and move into an apartment.
No.
Now, that's pretty harsh reality when you've got your legislators with that mindset.
Well, there's also a connected, deeper issue.
Yeah, those legislators got to hit the road is what it is. Those legislators got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
We got to get rid of those. Well, first of all, May the 4th be with you. We got to say that because it's May 4th, everybody.
Okay. Thank you.
The next is, I have a couple of things that I want to say, but piggybacking on what Brian said, there is, I think, a lack of understanding about the role of government at the societal level, and it's critical.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do
Correct.
a much better job of defining the role of government, because what we have is an inverse dynamic. It's completely broken. We have government systems that by overtaxing are destroying lives. And then at the same time, we have government using these media outlets, supposed news, the legacy media, to say that the problem is they're communicating to the public that the problem is there isn't enough government, that these people are homeless because there aren't enough government agencies, and it's completely backward. It's a self-fulfilling downward spiral of overtaxation causing problems, and then society being told that if only we have more government, then the government can step in and fix the problems. It's ludicrous. And for instance, when we have people kicked out of their homes, there are people out there that think, well, that's what these HUD agencies and this agency and that, if only they had more money. Well, meanwhile, these are multi-billion-dollar agencies with layers and layers and layers of all these administrators with these high salaries. If they weren't there, I don't think that the homeless people would be homeless to begin with. It creates the problem that it pretends to try to fix. So that brings me to a key point that I want to make. One, that is Doge, Ohio. Let's get back to that, because on Brian's point, we need better efficiency. We don't need more taxes. Clearly, that was the conclusion we arrived at decades ago. We don't need more money for schools. We're vastly overspending anywhere else for drastically worse results. We are overspending for roads and bridges and highways and infrastructure. We have so much money it's ridiculous. We're just not spending it appropriately. And so all the money that goes into all the nonsense stuff, yes, we like to point out appropriately, CRT, DEI, ESG, and all the other leftist woke nonsense that just siphons off money. But that's only part of it. We have the fraud, graft, and corruption that exists all throughout government that makes us, we're now, I just read something from GFI Ohio, at $100 billion a year deficit, or $100 billion a year annual budget for Ohio, when I think we know, if we're going to be honest about it, we can do better at a fraction of the price if we streamline and get rid of a lot of the bloat and the overspending. And to Brian's point, one last thing. When we talk about consolidating and finding better efficiencies, we're seeing exactly the opposite. When we look at school districts, the school districts that are struggling are sitting on huge stockpiles of cash, pretending like they don't have enough money, underpaying teachers while expanding their administrative staff, and then they're trying to go out for levies to build new stuff. Like they need to have an even newer new building or put on some sort of exotic new lighting system for their parking lot or new blacktop or something, as if they're constantly, every cycle, they're constantly this drumbeat of we don't have enough money when they're sitting on bunches of money and already overspending, just not spending it on the right things. So it's just a horribly broken system from tip to tail. That's the point I want to make.
No, absolutely broken. Absolutely. Okay, we're guest
Yeah,
is
Joe,
going to come on here soon.
Jonathan mentioned Doge. I've started a what I call a Loge in the Lake County's Office of Government Efficiencies, and we're trying to expose. There's been three things right off the top of my head where I can tell you that we got Lake Tran that's got $61 million sitting, in their cash reserves. The director says, well, they only need about $40 million to operate a year, but in 10 years, this Lake Tran, 10 years ago they had 700,000 riders. They were operating with $10 million a year was their operating expense. 10 years later, they've got less than 700,000, and their operating expenses is $24 million a year. And what they just did is they passed. They restored the 0.25% sales tax that they rescinded a year ago. Now they're saying they need more money than $61 million, so they've restored a 0.25% sales tax for Lake County effective July 1st. That's only one example of the things that I have exposed here, and I can go into Lakeland and many other places. But the accumulation of cash and reserves. It truly is immoral.
If our guest isn't on, Joe, let me piggyback on that.
Yeah, well, I think Brian has joined us. We'll go ahead and say something about that if you like, and then we'll bring.
Yeah, I'll make it quick.
If
Brian's on. So for anybody that doesn't know, the county that I'm in Geauga County. That is just south of Lake County, and Geauga County for some period of time had their own public transit system. And some years ago, prior to me arriving in Geauga County, I've only been here for a couple of years now. Prior to that, they went through all sorts of budget shenanigans and had issues. And now our county is combined with Lake County that Brian is talking about. And we're rural. It's a rural county, mostly farmland. It's beautiful country, actually. Really enjoying Geauga County since I've arrived here. But there are very few people riding the buses. A couple of years ago, a study was done.
You should see Cleveland. You should see Cleveland. There's nobody on the buses. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think Cleveland is a different example of what I'm after here and what I'm getting to. But there was a study that was done that I believe clearly showed that on-demand riders would save vast fortunes. So in other words, just have a fleet of vans in various spots and just park some drivers there. Just pay them to hang out in a garage. And if somebody queued up and said if they could use an app or something and say, I need to go from point A to point B, and we could move I don't even know. I don't even have a guess. Somewhere there's a report, whatever it is, 4,000 riders a year or something. But actually, regulations prohibit that. Regulations require, especially now that we're combined with Lake County, we must have these buses almost always empty. We must have these buses chugging along to and from every 28 minutes or whatever it is on some preset schedule for the virtually nobody that's riding.
Yeah, virtually nobody on those
buses. It's actually
yeah.
required. It's required that we waste money. Cleveland is not all that different. There are some riders, but I think at this point, until they completely revamp and do a much better job with public transit, including specifically safety, I think that going to some sort of on-demand transit system makes a heck of a lot of sense. And if we can show that we're saved, in Brian's example, if it's $24 million a year, and you can move that to $6 million a year if you go on demand, these are hypothetical numbers, but it's worth a study and looking at, then save the gosh darn money. And stop taxing people, because that's what leads to the homelessness.
But you're not going to save money because it's not their money and they don't care. That's the problem. That's the problem. How you doing there, Brian? I'll tell you what. You can turn. Oh man, we don't have I don't have audio. I don't have audio. You can also turn your camera sideways if you like. Get a bigger picture. Now, why don't I have audio? I've run into this stupid problem in the past. Why would I not have audio?
Uh-oh.
Are you there?
Brian, keep talking.
Are you there, Brian?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, great.
And everything's crystal
clear.
We got him now.
Yeah, okay, very good. So how are you today? I just want to remind everybody that if somebody in the chat, go ahead and chat. We'd love you to post a chat or something. We will bring you into the show. We'll make you part of the show. We promise to do that. So if anyone out there like that. All right. So it's good to see you, Brian. Let me give you a little biography, a little background on you here, okay?
All right.
Let's see. The biography says that Brian Lorenz, that's not your real name. That's what the biography says here. I gotta double check this. What the heck? All right. You're serving your first term in the Ohio House of Representatives, 60th Ohio District, right?
That's correct.
But you're right next to Columbus. Now, somebody told me, and it is probably phony information, they said the higher your number, the further you are away from Columbus. But you're right next to Columbus, and you have the 60th District, so that doesn't hold weight.
Yeah, I actually have Columbus precincts in my district. So I do represent the Columbus part of Delaware County.
You're right there. Okay, so Delaware, you live in Powell, right?
Correct.
You were the mayor of Powell.
I was, yes.
Wow. Okay, and then let's see what else here. You're involved in the community. You're St. Mary's Knights of Columbus. That's good. You graduated from Mansfield in 1991, Toledo University, and then you got a master's at the Ohio State University.
That's correct.
And then you have a wife, Sue, a son named Henry,
yes,
and 3 girls that are all triplets. It's amazing.
And it's their 20th birthday today.
Whose 20th birthday?
The girls, my triplets are.
Wow.
Hey, happy birthday, girls.
20. Happy birthday. I mean, here I am thinking that there's some little young whippersnappers running around. They're 20 years old. It's amazing. All right. Let's talk a little bit about some of, and congratulations as winning the Ohio House there. Let me ask you this real quick. It's kind of just something I'm interested in. When you were running for state rep, you probably had something in your mind as to what it would be like if you won and what it'd be like to be at the State House. And now that you're at the State House, was that accurate? What you thought it would be like?
I'll tell you, it's exciting down there. Every day is different. There's a lot of theater. It's very intense. And when I walked in there, it was a little bit surprising to comprehend everything that was going on. But I've adjusted quite well, and I feel like I work very well with my colleagues and getting a lot of good stuff done for Ohioans. So
Very good. All right, let's talk about, if you don't mind, let's go into the REINS Act. I'll talk about that
Sure.
first, okay? Now, you're going to have to help me out a little bit, but you and Ron Ferguson are working on the REINS Act, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, so it's also known as House Bill 11.
Yes.
Okay, it's also known as House Bill 11. It's to, okay, let me just say what this is here. So the REINS Act is, you're tired of unelected regulators making the rules, all right? And that it's a pivotal piece of legislation to check state overreach. State overreach. Now, here's what I think it's about. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think my understanding is the REINS Act is that you have these boards and commissions that are filled by usually people that the governor selects, okay, whoever the governor is. In this case, it would be DeWine. So they would fill up these boards and these commissions with their friends, you know, in a way. I mean, if it's a medical board, they all have to be medical practitioners, but you can find and pick and choose. Like on this medical board that we have, this is what I was looking up, you got podiatrists on there that were telling us about COVID-19. And I'm trying to think, well, wait a minute, you know, you had podiatrists telling us that, you know, we have to wear a mask and we have to stay 6 feet apart and everything like that. So these boards and commissions can wield an enormous amount of power. Okay, and they bypass the legislature. They bypass you guys, and that ain't right? So am I hitting it on the money at all there?
You nailed it. Yeah,
All
you
right.
nailed it. And you used COVID as a perfect example. You know, the night before the governor shut everything down, my wife and I went out and, you know, had dinner and got away from the kids for a little bit. And we sat there and looked at each other and said, this is going to be really crazy. We don't know what's going to happen, and our lives are never going to be the same. And so exactly what the REINS Act does is it checks unelected bureaucrats from making decisions and policies where the legislature may have not implemented legislation to that effect. And so what we're doing is we're acting accordingly to add more transparency to any process and give the power back to the people, just as our founding fathers had wanted us to do.
Where is it sitting right now? Is it
Mhm.
is it on the verge of becoming law, or is it just sitting in committee? Or where
We're
is
in
it?
committee, and we should have one more hearing for that, and hopefully we'll have it on the House floor in the next couple of weeks. And then I know the Senate's eager to get involved in it as well. So we should, you know, we're hoping to have this voted out in the next couple of weeks. We've got tremendous support from both sides of the aisle, actually, because, you know, it's a bipartisan bill. And again, we're elected to do our jobs, to make legislation for the state. And we're having situations where others are, you know, taking or interpreting our decisions and policies inappropriately and stacking the deck against Ohioans.
Yeah, I think that, see, there's political gamesmanship that you can play if you've been in politics long enough, and one of them is just stacking the deck on these boards and commissions, and then the governor can have the boards or commissions do what he wants, but at the same time he can throw up his arms and say, hey, I can't do anything because, you know, the board has the power.
Yes.
And this is what they're trying to do. So there's this gamesmanship that can be played. Hey, let me ask you about House Bill 28. We'll just switch gears here. Help me out here into something, maybe get some input from Brian as well and Jonathan. But this is legislation to simplify Ohio's property tax system. You're going to have to help me out here how you're going to do that. Promote transparency and avoid unintended property tax increases by eliminating replacement property tax levies. Eliminating replacement property tax levies. So fill me in on this one, okay?
So great question. We're eliminating the word replacement tax levy because that word is inaccurate. And so when we have a board or someone that is looking to go in front of the voters and say, oh, we're just doing a renewal, we're not asking for additional funds or mills, that's not accurate, because property taxes change. And as you know, that's one of our biggest issues here in the state right now. As they increase, people are having a tough time being in their home or staying in their homes. I'll get like 10 calls a week from seniors and veterans. Brian, what are you guys doing to help mitigate, my property taxes? And so the words and the terminology in this particular bill adds transparency to say, you cannot go out and actually say that you're asking for a replacement. You're actually changing, or you're probably getting an increase because of inflation and the fluctuation within people's property taxes.
So this bill is simply on terminology.
That's right.
Terminology, bringing transparency. I'll get Brian in here for a second. Transparency in property, in levies.
Well, I think what they've got to do is reduce the complexity. I don't know if Representative Lorenz knows, but we went down Thursday to the Attorney General's office and filed our petition for the complete elimination of property taxes, and we just don't think it's sustainable. We do believe that there's not a problem in the state of raising revenue over $500 million in 4 years, and not a thought of giving any money back to the people. So it's a government that is the public sector is outgrowing the private sector's ability to pay for the services.
Yeah, without a doubt. So let me ask you a question here. Who's that, Ken? No? Let me ask you a question, Brian. Actually, Brian Lorenz. We were talking. Brian went down there to in his group for the elimination of property taxes to get that rolling for a constitutional amendment and stuff like that. But let me ask you this question: when we're talking about property taxes at the State House, that's got to be a high concern, right? That's a high priority for you guys right now. Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I ran on that as my number one concern. And, that is a huge issue that I continue to work on a daily basis with several different bills. We also had a joint property tax commission set up at the end of the year to make recommendations on things that we can do to help mitigate property taxes for all Ohioans. And, it's paramount for me because, like I said, when I get calls from folks that have been in their homes 30, 40 years on fixed incomes and then cannot make their mortgage payments or make their tax bill payments, it's just not appropriate. It's not right. They deserve better. And so it's item number one for me.
Well, we look forward to listening to what you have to say, Representative Lorenz, and we'd be glad to sit down and talk with you if you have the time.
Sure.
We'll drive down to see you.
Yeah, that's great. And it's not a one size fit all approach to solving the issue. It will be done incrementally in different spaces and in pieces where we can get it done. Our state relies heavily, under our Constitution. We've got so many taxing jurisdictions that operate in so many different ways, and fulfilling those services and how the individual feels about that particular value is a decision that they have to make. And so taking little bites of the apple here and there and giving more credits or doing things with the homestead, or, for example, one of my bills is the Gold Star Widow bill, where you've got you'll receive a 100% property tax exemption if your spouse dies in the line of duty. And those are things we've got to do a better job in Ohio taking care of our veterans as well. And those are incremental things that we can do as a state to help and spread the funds around a little bit and make people's tax bills lower. people will say,
Representative
well, hold on a second.
Lorenz, the issue that we have when we have spoken to the representatives, what they have told us in no uncertain terms that they don't believe in carve-outs for anyone. If there's been a standard or universal statement, it has been they don't believe in carve-outs.
Yeah, and I hear that sometimes too. But I would just say, my bill in particular passed the House last year 90-1. So, and that might be considered a carve out. So, I know there may be some trepidation on some things, but generally speaking, I think that we can get some of these smaller things over the finish line. People say, why not just eliminate all these taxes and go to something, all sales tax or related like that? And why can't you be more like Florida? Well, we don't have that sort of economic impact that state has with all its parks and vacations and things like that to spread the wealth. So we've got to get creative on the ways that we can make improvements.
Well, the $100 billion a year budget, which maybe we could talk about that here in just a minute. But to me, $100 billion for the size of Ohio seems crazy. Seems incredibly crazy. Way too much taxation. If you want to bring industry and you want to bring people to the state, let's lower those taxes everywhere. Right. But instead, the whole mindset has been, no, we got to keep, growing the government, and that's a recipe for disaster for states. But hey, let me ask you about House Bill 15. Just hop around here a little bit real quick. This is one I think that you were kind of interested in talking about with the energy. Is that right?
Yeah.
So apparently, here's what I've got here. House Bill 15. It's a market-driven initiative that will improve affordability for consumers and increase energy generation, resulting in a more reliable grid. Let's see what else here. Ensuring access to reliable, affordable energy. So those are some of the things that House Bill 15 is doing. So maybe you can explain it to us a little better there. What's up with this House Bill here, this 15?
No, it's removing, eliminates many of the tariffs and it ultimately protects the ratepayers. It helps to improve generation, distribution. What we need to do in Ohio is end our reliance on the grid, PJM, and work to our own sustainable energy program, utilizing our resources, natural gas and things like that, and creating a better infrastructure for Ohio. Not only from a transmission standpoint, but also for a distribution standpoint. Having that infrastructure in place then allows us to go out and be competitive in the marketplace when attracting businesses such as Andril and what we've got going on with Intel over in New Albany, and ultimately lowers and reduces the burden on the utility users, the taxpayers of Ohio.
Okay. Very good. Well, and where does that bill stand right now? Is that
So great question. We just had that come back as substitute House Bill 15 and took a concurrence vote on it on Wednesday, and so that is now passed and will go to the governor for his signature, hopefully in the next 90 days.
Okay, let's talk about the big one here, House Bill 96, which is the budget. So let's talk about that, and we'll get a input from some of Jonathan and Brian and stuff too. But let me just start with this: what's your thoughts on the budget overall? Good, bad, indifferent? It's big, and the problem I have is that this budget never goes this way; it always goes this way. So it's over $100 billion a year now. Over $100 billion a year. So,
yeah.
So what's your thoughts on it?
I think like every budget, there's good and bad. I mean, the biggest bad is probably the situation that pertains to the Browns, right? Um, we probably shouldn't be subsidizing professional sports stadiums and things of that nature. I wasn't happy with that, but there are good parts in that budget as well, and we'll see what we get back from the Senate. But one of the most important things for me was the incremental uh, monies going to the schools. I mean, the schools they've gotten more money per pupil in this biennium than they have in the past, and reining back in a lot of the reserves that they're hanging on to, and putting that back into the taxpayers' back pocket. Hopefully, January 1st, we'll see some. We talked about property tax relief. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of reserves come back into people's pockets, and they'll get some property tax relief at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we hope so. We can hope for that. Jonathan, you got anything to say about that? And we talked about that in the past, too. You got anything to say about that?
I do. So first things first, thank you for joining us tonight. I have a question about your shirt. Are those
Okay.
Ohio emblems? Is that
What do you
the
think?
Ohio?
Yeah,
I'm
it is.
jealous. That is a cool shirt. I dig it.
Thanks.
I need to have
It's
one
all
of
my
those.
wife. She got it for me. So, and with the
Awesome. I
Cavs
like
playing
that.
right now, I didn't have a Cavs shirt, so I put this one on instead. So best I could do.
It's right up my alley. I love the style.
Thank you.
So a couple of things, kind of somewhat in order of the conversation and comments that you've made. I want to ask, what are your thoughts on the prospects of a Doge Ohio? I know it's a big open-ended question, but I'm going to lead with that and turn it back over to you.
What do you think, Brian? Should we have something? Should we create our own Doge Ohio?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're doing it right now. We have a Doge caucus led by Tex Fisher, myself, Ron Ferguson, and some other colleagues of ours in the House. And, House Bill 11 plays right into that as the highlighting, bill. So absolutely, we need to be looking at things and checks and balances. That's what it's all about. So.
Well, let me piggyback off that for 1
I-
second. Who's on the Doge team? You said you're on there, and who else? Tex?
Yeah, we've
Tex
got
Fisher?
a number of Republicans that have signed up for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
don't have Elon.
It's
Elon's
a pretty
not
good
part
group.
No, but we love Elon. Vivek supports what we're doing as well. He's talking a lot about not only our bill, but our Doge caucus. There's some other statewide officials that have been really interested in what we're doing, and so it's just a time for us to collaborate and talk about things that we can do to mitigate costs and return power back to the taxpayers.
All right, so I've got some things to build off of that, but I see that we've got a question that's come up here. I'm going to suggest, Joe, that we defer to our online guests for any
Okay.
questions.
Oh, so let's do this real quick. I'll come right back to you. All right, so let's. This is going back to a previous question, but
Yeah.
how exactly does the REINS Act achieve what it's supposed to achieve? I think they're talking about the REINS Act.
Yeah, I think they are too. I saw that. Now, I'd go back to the COVID example. That rule that was implemented by the governor would not stand today if we had the act, because it would require legislative approval. And so that's one of the best examples that I can give. Another one would be if there was a funding request over $100,000. That would come back to us to sign up the legislator to sign off on, as far as allowing that and checking that purchase or program or what it might be. So it really brings the checks and balances back into scope with not allowing the unelected bureaucrats and what I call the fourth artificial branch of our government, the administrative government, having too much power.
No, got you. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that.
Sure.
So, in effort to try to keep things somewhat sequential, at least, or actually, maybe I'll just jump around a little bit. One of the last things that you said was about the 30% reserves. The concern that many people have, including myself, is that these institutions, schools included, are going to take a use it or lose it philosophy and just burn through the money rapidly. What, if anything, are you seeing or could you imagine putting in place to really hold their feet to the fire and make sure that excesses above 30% reserves actually do come back to we the people? And I don't know, Joe, if you want to go back and forth, but I do have a couple of things I'd like to run through.
Well, let's let
most
Brian
fair
answer
to our
that.
guests to go.
Yeah, let's let Brian
give him a
answer
chance
that.
to
That's
answer
fine. Yeah, give him a chance to answer that. So, the 30%, boom, are they going to either spend it or they're going to hide it or they're going to put it under their mattress? Or what do you think? I mean, is it really legit?
I think it's legit. I think it'll be refined in the Senate part of the in their process within the budget. So I guess I would say stay tuned. But conceptually, I think that it works, and it's something that we felt was important. These, and not just schools, but everyone else. They can earmark things, but they're not the banks. And so there's got to be some sort of check and balance here as well to make sure that what we're doing has transparency and is the will of the voters.
Gotcha.
Okay, so getting back to the idea of Doge Ohio, and thank you for the highlight on our representatives that have elected to get involved, and hats off to them. I think even just taking the step in this environment of associating with a Doge Ohio effort is significant and to be applauded. However, I do suggest that in this political climate, actually doing the work of a Doge is probably a political career ender. I'm sorry to say it, but in my perspective, the best possible outcome or the best solution for a Doge Ohio, because I am of the firm belief that there's massive bloat in our budget, is some sort of outside source working maybe indirectly with those office holders or a group of people that candidly are willing to thumb their nose and say, I don't care. I'm going to do what's right for the state of Ohio, because it's a tough climate that we've gotten into. And nobody, yourself included, and Rep. Ferguson, nobody there is responsible for where we've gotten to, because it's taken us many, many years to get here. However, where we go from here is ultimately the responsibility of each of you who have been elected to office. If we are going to be successful at a really significant gutting of these, we know the outcome. You can see what's happening with Elon Musk and those coders, they call them the kids. They're being attacked viciously. What do we do? What can we do to bring in outside resources or whatever we need to do in order to really make significant impact on our state budget?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. My answer to that is, and I can only speak for myself, so it's my job to recognize the inefficiencies and the overspending and make suggestions and recommendations. I know that the caucus considers we're in our infancy, so to speak, and so those are conversations that we're having. What will be the most impactful way for us to utilize resources to get things done, just as you asked?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point it's a good point, because if you bring in an outside source like with Elon and Doge and stuff, they can plow through it. But if you're already on the inside, if you're a state rep or something, it'd be like Congress. It'd be like saying Congress, Doge, the federal government. It would never work. It's never happened. But but I can see where it's going to be tough for you guys to get a lot of work done. But I'm glad that it's there, and it's good to know who's on there. Yeah. I got to look up and see who was on the Doge team. Did we have another question? I'll ask the question. Throw it up again if we have another one. But okay,
There
you're
was a
right.
comment.
All right, Tex
was a
Fisher
comment.
told his constituents he is involved with that, and he feels he may not win another election. I hope that's
Well,
not the case. I mean,
don't know.
we've really got to push. I think that's maybe overblowing it at this stage. I mean, if you guys were just like doing what Doge is doing and peeling back the onion and stuff like that, maybe. But right now, it's just a group, and it's a large group, and you guys are all pretty. There's some very influential people on that group. So I don't know if I really see
Jim,
that happening.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but at this point, with the massive public sentiment in favor of Doge, I think the opposite is true. I think that the reps that are willing to get out there and not tiptoe, the reps that are willing to go way out on a limb, and it's political danger. That is definitely, we have to acknowledge that. If and when we see representatives doing that, it's up to us. And shame on us, Ohioans, if we don't massively reelect those people. That's where the grassroots, we need to hammer back at. We know that they're probably going to get attacked by the leftist media, but look at leftist media. They're dying. Nobody's really paying attention to them. They're down at like 38 to, I think that's CNN. Their legacy media is dying. We, I believe, can fight back. If we can find the reps to get in there and really put the hammer to this thing and work Doge-like, I suggest that it's our responsibility, including those of us behind Ohio Political News and everybody like us, to rally around those people and make sure that they do get reelected.
Yeah, we would support them tremendously. But go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just going to say, Jonathan, I'm not, again, for me, I'm not afraid of losing elections for doing the right thing. I'm only here as long as God and the voters have me here. And so I will continue to focus on building those efficiencies and doing the right thing. It doesn't bother me when, certain comments are made like that, because it is what it is. I'm not doing my job if I'm not going out there and working on these things and trying to make our environment better. So.
No, that's absolutely right. Hey, let me ask you one last question here. Oh, wait a minute. Ohio votes Tuesday. Issue 2. Okay, issue 2. I'll tell you what. I'll give you the choice.
Issue 2.
I'll give you the do you want to talk issue 2 or do you want to talk the Browns Stadium? Which one?
They're both pretty loaded questions.
Yeah, pick one. Pick one. Which one do you feel more like talking about?
Yeah,
Browns?
Well, I would, issue 2 is interesting, and I didn't vote for it on the floor. I would say that one of the things that concerns me is that the point system and how it qualifies different projects. It may put a project that isn't going to be the most beneficial for the state in front of another one because of the way they're ranked and brought forth. And so that kind of gives me pause and a little, the lack of clarity and not having a clear answer on how something's going to go always puts me a little at uneasy feeling. And so that's why I didn't support it on the floor. And
let me ask you a question associated with that.
I think I was only about 1 of 5 no's on that. So
really, everybody's saying vote yes. Why are we going to a thing called bonds? Why do we have to issue bonds when we have a $100 billion budget? That's my biggest. And the transportation. You're part of the transportation committee. How big was that? I mean, that was that like $10 billion or something?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's covering a lot of these very issues and stuff. And what's the deal with this $2.5 billion in bonds? And you're only using what you're using $250 million a year, I guess, on it. But anyhow, any thoughts on that? Just to clarify anything.
I mean, just with bonds, the ROI is always looking very good long term, but there's always some there could be a situation where they don't pan out in the market, and we could probably find more money in the budget for things than going out and bonding and living in uncertainty for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah. Brian, you got any last? You got a last question?
I do have a question for Representative Lorenz. With President Trump eliminating the Federal Department of Education eventually, what impact will that have on the state? And I understand that the state Board of Education has been overhauled by Governor DeWine. Is it your first question is, what do you think the role of should be for government in education itself? What is their role? And do you think that schools are experiencing mission creep? I see that in Lake County, that schools seem to be doing more than just the 3 R's these days. It's everything from mental health and dentists and in the schools. So I see mission creep, which increases the cost.
So I would answer it like this. I'm a huge believer in school choice. And on top of that, I feel that the parents are the best decision makers for where their children should go to school, whether that's homeschool, whether that's public school, Catholic school, and have those decisions. And we've had to put, to sort of answer your second question, legislation in place to define curriculum a little bit tighter, to make parents aware in the public schools when things outside of what I also call the 3 R's may come into play, and have that conversation. So yes, there's some scope creep there per se. But as long as I feel like as long as our parents are aware of what's going on, and can have that power to make those decisions, to pull things in or out, that's how we have to combat some of these issues.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brian, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad we could finally hook up with it and everything and do this.
Sorry about that. Joe, I was honored and blessed to be asked to come to the White House when the Buckeyes were there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, heck yeah. Wow.
And
wow.
With a couple of my colleagues here. And so to be with the president and, see the guys and interact and just be involved in that whole process and spend time in the vice president's office. It was a huge blessing and an honor, and one I'll never forget. So,
that's amazing thing too, Ian. Well, thank you very much. And you're a big Buckeyes fan, I take it, right?
You better believe it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, all the way.
Buckeyes all the way. So I think they're going to do really good this year too.
I think so too. It's really great that we got to see the players interact with President Trump like that, and see him on that human scale, so to speak, and see them relaxed and see some of their photographs and, having a good time in the White House. And I think that's really, really important that our young people get to have those interactions with people in higher offices and whatnot. And, really just not necessarily get to know them, but understand that they're real people too, and just have that connection. And that was really satisfying for me as well. So I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah, well, thanks. Thank you again for coming on. And hopefully we'll have you on again sometime in the near future. And I love having state reps on. I like to get a little bit of insider information, so it's good. So thank you again.
Anytime.
God bless you. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rep. Lorenz.
Thank you very much.
Night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night. Thank you very much. Oh, that was great. That was very good. Leonard has joined us tonight. I've got to bring... Hey, Leonard, how are you? Let me just see if I got the audio for you, though. I don't know. I might have to fix the audio. Are you out there?
Keep talking, Leonard.
Yeah, I'm out here.
Okay, got you there.
Okay,
hey, what's this say? Mama Linda, I'm voting no on issue 2 to allow these reps to go back and fix things, then place on November ballot when most people vote. I think this is BS. That something this important is in a primary election. Yeah, I think that's a really good point there, because issue 2, they're putting it on the ballot. No one hardly knows that there's even an election coming up on Tuesday. It's going to be small voter turnout. It's going to be in their favor to get it passed. issuing bonds, $2.5 billion in bonds, so that they can play with the money. It's like a big slush fund. Even Representative Brian Lorenz was saying that there's not a lot of transparency where this money's going to go, who's going to get it, which districts. The whole thing is just kind of shady. The whole thing, and when you have a transportation bill that's $10 billion and you got a budget that's $100 billion for 1 year, you think you might be able to find $250 million somewhere for these projects instead of issuing bonds. So that's a big part of the problem I have with the whole thing. All right. Let's see here. Let's go. Kent, you're out there, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, Kent, give us a quick commercial, and we got to promote ourselves
Joe,
here. Got to promote ourselves.
Yeah, right. First off, I know you're planning on live streaming. We're really wanting to cover as much as we can. We got a lot of ways to do that. I know Brian's been covering a lot of stuff, but I think you're planning on going down to do a meeting on
State Central
Friday?
Committee.
Yeah, go ahead and share.
Yeah, all right. So anyhow, State Central Committee is coming up on Friday, and that's something we could talk about here real briefly as well. So they want to push for endorsements, but the long and short of it for Ohio Political News is, I'm definitely thinking about live streaming it. So we will promote that and live stream that. A lot of people would like to watch that, and the media is allowed to videotape it and stuff. But it should be interesting because Vivek wants the endorsement in the worst way. John Husted wants it. I think John Husted will get it. But Vivek wants it. I think Yost will definitely be there. He's going to try to stop it, the whole thing. So that's kind of what I'll ask these guys in here in a minute. But is there anything else, Kent?
Yeah, no, we definitely want to promote everybody. We're on. We want to thank everybody on Rumble because Rumble is helping us very, small amounts, but it adds up. We do, I forget to mention this all the time, we have a 24/7 stream. The more you can watch, even if you cannot support us, by just watching us, it supports us. And I know you see ads coming up at the beginning of the live stream. That helps us. So just skip it, and then you'll pop on. We'll pop on. We do have the 24/7 running. You'll be seeing this podcast coming up shortly after on the 24/7, and we do have other ones. We just want to also, if you're on Facebook, make sure to go down in the comments and as you're watching, click on the stars and you can support us that way. You can also support us over on Rumble. If you hit the little $, you can support us there. Or if you want to pay forward, there's a little gift box on the lower left corner and you can support someone else by spending a little bit of money there to support us too. So, and then also you can subscribe to our channel for a couple bucks a month, and we appreciate that. Make sure to also like us and share. It's not just liking and following, it's actually the sharing that is the most powerful part of getting it out there to all of Ohio. But make sure to check us out. Definitely the 24/7. And thank you to Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, X, all of those we're out there. And so for anyone that's looking to, get your word out, we are out there on all the different platforms. So we are looking to, any kind of endorsements or sponsorships. Reach out to Joe at ohiopoliticalnews.com or me, Ken at ohiopoliticalnews.com, and we, will definitely talk with you about promoting on the show, on the 24/7. Thank you for all the support.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we got
Joe. Did you hear that Marcel Stribich is going to be running for Secretary of State?
Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah.
And I did get an invite to go to his fundraiser, I guess, and I'm thinking about live streaming that event for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that'd be great. I'm pulling for Sturbridge.
Yeah, anything, all that kind of stuff. I definitely want to start live streaming as much as we can. So that's a lot of fun. It's something exciting about seeing an event happening live as opposed to watching it pre-recorded, and taped or whatever. And that's why I was saying when you went down to see the Attorney General, I wish you were live streaming, because it sounds like you went through holy heck, and it would have been a lot of fun to see it as it happens and stuff. But anyhow, we want to start live streaming. If Strubich is doing something, I think Pleshnik is talking on the 14th at a Parma Republican group on property taxes. I don't know if you know about that or not. Brian, if you're part of that group or not that's talking, or maybe it's just Pleshnik by himself. But
I'll have to ask him about it.
Yeah, ask him about it. So that's that's going to be happening on the 14th. We'll be try to live stream that.
To put this thing into perspective, first of all, I am among those advocating for no endorsement. I don't think that the Ohio Republican Party should be doing endorsements, especially not this early. Let the voters decide. Take a seat, gentlemen. That's what I suggest, ladies and gentlemen, of the Ohio Republican Party. Don't rush into this endorsement debacle. I don't think that you should be chiming in. This thing needs to play out more. We need more information. We need to hear from people like Husted and Vivek Ramaswamy, etc. But two things. One is there was a big legitimate series of questions around Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, in her run and taking the Democrat ticket, remember how she didn't really do anything, and she supposedly had these roles and she didn't do anything, and then she was slotted in spite of having no real votes and she just sort of arrived. And legitimately, a lot of Democrats and pretty much all Republicans and independents said that's not fair and it's not reasonable that she just suddenly showed up and is granted this thing. Well, in my book, this Husted thing works in the same way. What is it actually? And this is an open question to my Republican colleagues out there. What has Husted done? And if you have an answer to that and you want to rebut, that's great. Come do it in the chat. Find me on social media. Tell me what it is that Husted has done that has earned your vote or this nomination. Short of that, we have a nomination that is just for appearances, which is ridiculous and exactly the opposite of what the American people are demanding right now. The last thing I'm going to say, Joe, is when you do get together, if there is a decision made to make an endorsement for our next governor of the great state of Ohio, I'm going to ask you to call for a roll call vote. So hopefully the information can get out about our state central committee representatives, our state central committeemen, and how they voted, because that becomes really important information. I know a lot of people, and I'm just going to add a little clarity to that for anybody that doesn't know what that means. There are lots of important votes that take place in environments like our state central committee. Oftentimes they're done in secret, so they just come out and announce to the world, we voted such and such, yes on this issue or no on that, or to endorse such and such person, and you have no idea how your representative voted. It's frustrating for everybody. I call for roll call votes. That's when you see a list of names and you can see how they voted. So Joe, you'll be there, and either remotely or in person. I'm going to suggest that if that topic comes up, you and somebody else prepare ahead of time to call for that roll call vote so we know who voted how on the issue.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good idea. Yeah, there's no reason we should do any kind of secret ballot voting. I agree with you 100%. Just let everybody know how you vote. We'll see how that all plays out. But I want to get Brian, let me ask you a question here. What do you think about the early endorsement? Is it way too early to endorse somebody? I'm more concerned with Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm not so concerned with John Husted because I don't think anybody else is going to jump into the ring, and that is going to be millions and millions and millions of dollars, that election. It is probably the second or third most important Senate race. And the amount of money that'll be pumped into it is unbelievable.
I would agree with Jonathan in there regarding it's too early. I would like all of the candidates to get out and actually talk to the people so that people can make up their own minds and not just be swayed by he's a Republican and he's got the vote of the Central Committee. I'd like to hear from everybody. So that's my stance on it.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. I know there's a lot of pressure. There's been a lot of arm twisting. I have talked to Ramaswamy a couple times. He's called me. He's calling all the committee people. You know, he wants that endorsement big time. But you know, he's already wheeled in. Let's just talk about this for a minute, because it's not like he's just a nobody. He's got Trump's endorsement. He's got Elon Musk's endorsement. He's got a lot of people from Congress and the Senate, but here in Ohio, he's got the majority of state representatives already that have endorsed him. He's got of Republicans. He's got the majority of the Republican state senators who have endorsed him already. You know, you got LaRose who's endorsed him. You've got Sprague. And also, Ramaswamy has been just hitting the Lincoln Day dinners. I think you went to one yourself, all over the place. He is like the hot card right now, people. So this is where the arm twisting is coming in. So with all of that, do you still say we should put off any kind of endorsement?
Yeah, I think I've already made up my mind. But
okay.
I'm not influencing anyone. And that is, you know, I'm thinking we need some new blood down there in the State House. And it can't just be a revolving door of the same players. Because they haven't really done anything, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we got to get some new blood in.
All right, test 1 2 3 4 5. Test 1 2 3 4
Is
5.
Is this what you're referring to here, as far as
Yes.
some of the changing of the guard? So we have people like LaRose, who is now moving from Secretary of State to be the auditor. You have Keith Faber, who is now going to be. He wanted to be Attorney General, it says, but I think he's changed his mind on that, right? What is Faber running for? Not Attorney General. Oh, no, he is. That's right. I'm sorry. He is running for Attorney General. And then we have Robert Sprague, who is going to run for Secretary of State. He was the treasurer. You know, I think you see the problem we have here. These guys just keep swapping seats.
Yeah, I tell you, my experience with Yost, you know, last week, if that is an indication of how he treats people, I think he should probably move on to something else. Maybe, you know, be a lobbyist for some technical group or something like that. But he shouldn't.
Brian, was it? I didn't get the story. Was it Yost personally or his office?
Well, it was his office. We didn't get to see him, of course. You know, he doesn't meet with the people. But when we went down there, we couldn't even go up to the office. The four of us went down there. They sent a representative. I think she was a lawyer, a constitutional lawyer. She came down and she picked up her package. I said, well, you know, we've got to have somebody. She wasn't even going to sign for it. She was just going to take it from us. And we said, no, we want some sort of acknowledgement. We've been there and we've handed this to you. And so she took me up to her office, but I couldn't go into the office. I was only in, you know, where the secretary was. And so I had to sit down in the chair in the waiting room. The girl went back in the office and did something. She came back, well, here's a signature that we've received your package. And I took it back down to our group, and our attorney says, no, we want a stamp that says the Attorney General has accepted this. And half hour later, you know, they came back. They still didn't have a stamp for the Attorney General. It was very, very, very unprofessional, as far as I'm concerned, and not what we were expecting from the top official in the state.
I'm very curious about this. Do you have any experience or knowledge of other similar proposals being delivered to that office and what normally takes place? So what I'm fishing for is if possibly you were treated differently or perhaps mistreated intentionally.
I don't know how to answer that, Jonathan. To answer your question, I do not know how others. I guess I could have. I could reach out to the one contact we had. The one contact that we did have She said that she did it several times, meaning she had to come up with the 1,000 signatures 3 or 4 times before they even accepted her petition.
Wow.
So they're not interested in helping the average citizen. I'll just tell you that right out front. They're not interested in going over and above. And even the law enforcement, treated us like we were pariahs. I mean,
Yeah, how dare
when
you
we
go
were trying
there,
to go
right?
back and get the stamp. They said, "Hey, no, you guys are finished here. You're done here. You're done here." And we're saying, why are we being treated this way? We're citizens. And they,
Well, just
and they were
just a comment
treating
on
us
that
like,
because, sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to step.
no,
on your
go
toes.
ahead. No,
So-
go ahead, Jonathan.
This is an issue that's near and dear to me. It's an awareness that I've cultivated intentionally over the last many years. There is a growing and very inappropriate sense on the part of people that work in our state capital and certainly our U.S. capital that they are somehow some sort of elites or untouchable, and that we are some sort of groveling peons or something. And the exact opposite is the truth. They are there as representatives of the people, and that's our house. They are
100
welcome guests
100%
of
agree,
our
Jonathan.
house
100%.
as long as they are behaving appropriately. So the whole idea that you're there as some kind of nuisance or something, that is, I'm to the point right now because it's gotten bad enough in Columbus and in our state house where it's up to us to take down some badge numbers, assert ourselves, get as much as you can on camera, and then not speaking specifically to Brian, this is just general commentary. If you get a sense that that's the way that you're being treated, get every document that you can and work diligently to create some public sentiment in opposition. If we can get people removed from their post in law enforcement for misbehaving in that way, great, I'm all for it. I'm a big supporter of our police and first responders. I back the blue. But in that instance, we have a police officer who is inappropriately misbehaving relative to we the people of Ohio. That needs to be rooted in everything that we think and do in our interactions in Columbus. That's our house. They're there at our behest for one job, and that is to represent the interests of we the people. That whole thing of like this facade that they put up and then the difficulty of getting to them and then feeling like we are invaders in their little private club. We need to jettison that and get rid of that concept immediately. That's
Yeah.
my suggestion.
100, I agree 100%.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
You got to do that 100% because they work for us, and they don't realize that anymore. People don't realize this. It's like the government is the big beast, and we have to abide by whatever they say. It's supposed to be the opposite way around in this country. Okay, they work for us. And the other thing too, Brian, you got to go out and get another 1,000 signatures if he tosses it for some reason. There's something
Correct.
that he doesn't like about it. Now you got to go out and get another 1,000 valid signatures, which means like getting 1,800 or something,
Correct.
just so that you make sure that you have enough. What a pain! Wow. So keep us up to date on all of that, please. Keep us up to date, and I would strongly suggest next time just turn your cell phone on or something. Record anything. We'll get it on the show.
Well, we do have 2 minutes. John Mara did take 2 minutes, but probably not the best 2 minutes. We probably could have done a better job. But when you're down there with the mission of trying to do the job of turning in the petition and hoping that you'd get some feedback from your elected officials, doesn't happen that way. As Jonathan says, they're looking at us as peons.
Yeah. Well, my son had to call the Secretary of State's what did I tell him to call? Oh, Treasurer's office, I think it was. I told him to call the Treasurer's office because he had a question about his city taxes, and he's out in Dayton, and how the city taxes are more complicated than the federal taxes. So I told him, call the treasurer. They'll tell you. He called the treasurer's office. The phone just rang. Nobody picked up the phone. It just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. The secretary, nobody picked it up. That's the efficiency we have there. That you had trouble with the attorney generals. It's a joke, okay? It's kind of a joke. I want to get Leonard. I got to get you on here. Thanks for joining us and stuff. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to say? I don't want to put you in a box. Oh, wait, 1 second. 1 second. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you I was just going to be a silent Jonathan Summits because he was dead on. And when I heard the representative speak, I'm amazed at how we don't even think about the word liberty and freedom. It just doesn't mean anything. And as soon as you use the word liberty and freedom, that should ring a bell to every citizen, whether you be a politician or whatever. But it just does not register. So, which tells me we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and if we don't do that work, it's just going to get worse and worse. We're becoming more of a socialist country and everything like that. So, you have any final thoughts? I'm going to let you give the last word here, if you have any closing thoughts. We'll maybe try.
Yeah,
to wrap
I
it
just
up.
wanted to say, I just wanted to let you know that, like, regardless of what happens, during the first round of this, I'm going to go back again, and if I have to go back 3 or 4 times, I'll keep doing it. Because I'm committed to doing this because I'm not myself. I'm thinking about the turns out at least somebody can see what we're doing and ball. So the worst thing we could do is quit. So that's not going to happen on my watch.
No quitters allowed. No quitters allowed. All right. I guess we'll wrap it up tonight if that's okay with you guys.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I appreciate it. Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Leonard. Joe.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Yeah, everybody have a good night.
Night.
We'll talk to you soon. Yeah. Oh, I got to play my Trump music. Where is Trump when you need him, for crying out loud? Oh, here he is.